Season 4, Episode 4 of The Flash opens up with Cisco and Gypsy and their late night date night, I guess. And Cisco wants to know Gypsy's real name after dating her for, has to been months by now, since Barry's been missing for 6 months and never knowing it before, or thought to ask before, I guess. And she tells him she doesn't like her name, so she's not going to tell her, of course. Tell him. But then everything's interrupted once Gypsy's dad, Breacher, teleports in for some reason. Well, vibes in for some reason. And tells Cisco to stay away from his daughter. And I guess he has the perfect timing then. Or the worst timing, depending. And then the scene changes to Ralph Dipley, I think his name is. He's a private detective, and I guess he mostly goes after cheating spouses. Gets paid for that. Then, of course, he tries to hit on some of his clients, which he gets slapped for. And then Joe and Barry walk in and question him about if he was on the bus when the Speed Force portal opened and he got affected with dark matter and has metahuman powers now, basically, which he denies, of course. And they leave, but then two goons walk in and hang Dipley upside down on the roof. For the photos, I guess, since that he took of the mayor's affair. That's what they were looking for. But of course, he stretches. When in peril, his metahuman gene activates. And he stretches to the ground, and luckily Barry and Joe are in the right place at the right time, help him out, and drag him back to Star Labs to help him. And then Iris freaks out when she sees parts of him outside in the hallways of Star Labs. And basically everyone just freaks out. They try to help him. And Caitlin tries to find temporary cure to at least reset his body. But of course things get worse before they get better. And then Caitlin hits some baby powder, which is, I don't know why would they have baby powder there, but maybe foreshadow. Makes him sneeze, then his face elongates and Joe throws up. Which is a funny and impressive scene. And I'm surprised they made it to look like disturbing, but not that scary. And somewhat realistic, I guess. But eventually Joe and Barry find out about the mayor's involvement after all of Dipley's call towards him in the past week. Of course, he denies anything having to do with the mayor, and so does the mayor at first. But then the mayor tells Joe and Barry about his affair and the photos he has, that he's blackmailing him. And they agree to help in any way they can. Then the mayor walks off, and apparently the two goons that were hanging Dipley upside down on his roof earlier are working for him, and he orders them to take care of Dipley and the cops, because just to waste him, because apparently he doesn't care about cops, even though he used to be one. So I guess even on the force, he might have been a crooked cop, probably. And earlier, his plan to blow up all the evidence in Dipley's office worked, but Barry and Iris were there and managed to get out just in time with the hairbrush to get some DNA for Caitlin. But then that makes me wonder where Dipley was keeping the photos if he wasn't keeping it in his office. Maybe at his house, or I feel like he lived in his office though. He didn't really have that much money after he got fired from the police force after planting fake evidence because of Barry in his early days. Anyways, then Breacher is after Cisco and is hunting him because he doesn't want him with his daughter. Gives him 24 hours with no powers. Chase him through the city and through Starting Labs. Then Harry gives Cisco the idea to trap him, which doesn't work out because he has a knife that can apparently cut through force fields. So he's on the run again. But eventually, towards the end, he manages to stand up for himself, and confront Breacher to protect his friends or acquaintances, because he doesn't really know Ripley that well. And then the mayor sends his goons after Barry and Jill to kill him, of course. Which, I doubt they had silencers, would have made a lot of noise, but oh well. Maybe they didn't want to cover up all... They should be able to cover up all the evidence, though. Oh well. Anyways, the Flash is obviously too fast for them. Knocks him out. Saves Joe at the last possible second. And then they realize Ripley's not so bad after all, even though he was blackmailing people. And I feel like Barry was a little harsh on Ripley, since the whole reason he planted evidence was to because there was no evidence that condemned the main suspect, which was the husband of the victim, who was his wife, who was stabbed to death. Everyone thought it was him. But I guess since the same thing happened to his father, that he's against it. But I feel like in that case, Barry's father should have been let off too, because there's no real evidence that, I guess, Barry's mom suffocated to death, probably because of the reverse flash. But there was like no evidence, no claw that would connect Barry's father to that crime. And of course there's going to be fingerprints everywhere because it's his house, but I don't know, I don't see any real evidence that would have put Barry's father away in the first place. But oh well. And then Breacher goes after Ripley after Ripley goes off on his own after his fight with Barry and still takes the photos to the mayor, even though he tried to kill him a bunch of times, and decides he doesn't want the money anymore. Because now he's a good guy. The mayor still tries to kill him again anyways. Doesn't work out because of his meta-human powers. And then Barry, as the Flash, and Joe show up and try to stop him, but of course Breacher gets in the way, and the mayor kidnaps Joe for leverage, I guess. Then Cisco shows up, protects his friends, convinces Breacher that that Dipley's not an alien that destroyed his planet. He's just a metahuman because Team Flash messed up. Well, I guess just Barry. That's all on Barry. Well, I guess it is Team Flash since Cisco's the one that broke him out. Anyways, that gets Breacher to go on his way. Then Flash gets up and uses Dipley's powers to stretch and grab the helicopter. Which is kind of dangerous because he could have easily overshot and hit the blades or something. But I guess that wouldn't cut him, maybe, since he managed to stop a bullet. Oh well, he has good aim, even though he's still not used to his powers, though. Then Barry runs up him, knocks the gun out of the mayor's hand, saves Joe, and Joe tells him Cecile's pregnant. And then they have a montage with cigarettes, even though the baby's not born yet. And they tell Iris and Caitlin, and Cisco's not there, or Harry, so they probably don't know yet, at least. Maybe later. Maybe they just tell them over the phone since they're busy or something. And then Barry visits Dipley at his office again, which is fine apparently after it exploded. I doubt it should be like super charred and like inhabitable because everything was broken. But apparently Barry managed to fix up his place. Oh well. Then he tells Dipley that he can be a hero, that he'll train him, and he should have Cisco come up with a cool superhero name and a costume. So we get another member for Team Flash, even though we lost Wally and Julian. Julian just disappeared out of nowhere, but maybe he'll come back once at least. Because I think he's still in love with Caitlin, but maybe he won't. I guess it's still in the realm of possibility, though. And I do wonder if this is part of the Thinker's plan, which probably is, since Dipley revealed that the whole reason he started following the mayor in the first place was because he was hired by DeVoe, which is the Thinker. And then the Flash, Barry, realizes DeVoe was his greatest future enemy, and that he's behind all this. But then maybe it is part of DeVoe's plan to have Dipley join Team Flash, maybe? But if he's on the Flash's side, he can't manipulate Dipley into joining him or use him against Barry. Because Becky, he said, was easily manipulated, which I can believe. And it'd be good to have luck on his side, literally. And Kilgore probably wants revenge against Barry for putting him in prison, which most of the metahumans do. So I can see that happening. But then out of all of them, the only real villain really was Kilgore, since he murdered people. And then Becky's only guilty of theft. And then Dipley's only guilty of planting evidence, but he always did it for a good reason, not for selfish reasons or revenge, like the other two. So I wonder what the story of the next 9 metahumans or so would be like, since the bus driver's dead. So they said there's 12 metahumans, but there might have been 13 people on the bus driver plus 12 passengers, maybe. That's probably how it is. So even if the bus driver somehow got powers, he probably would have been dead before he had the chance to use them.